Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, thought I'd talk a little bit about lumber. I know a lot of people follow this channel because they like the lumber report that I do. Lumber has been pretty boring lately. I mean, we have been hovering around the 500 per thousand mark, which is pretty typical of lumber. I mean, if you go back through historical averages, it's probably going to be a little bit lower than 500 per thousand, but really 500 per thousand is something that we had experienced back in 2017, 18, somewhere around there. And it had peaked out at 650 per thousand before it had fallen prior to the COVID pandemic, right? So like 650 was an incredible high when you think back prior to all the events that had taken place with inflation. But then during the COVID lockdowns and the depletion of inventory and the stimulus packages and everything that had happened, lumber ran up to 1,700 per thousand and then fell again back down to 500 per thousand where we are today. It had bounced around a little bit. It had fallen to like 400 and I think up to around 1,200 and then back down to where we are now. Now, some of the things that I'm experiencing within the lumber industry is that there is shortages within the supply chain. Now, they're not dramatic, and it's not so eventful that it makes an impact within the lumber market itself. But lately, like over the last, say, 2 weeks, we have seen the lumber prices moving up. And I'm not exactly sure if it's moved up to about 10% now. Really, I would have to check and see where it is that they had bottomed out here just recently, but it's somewhere close to that. We had just crossed 500 per thousand, and I believe it's around 535. And when you think about like why the demand, or at least why is it that these prices are now moving up in the futures, is because the future demand for lumber is now starting to increase slightly. Like the idea that the Federal Reserve may have peaked out on interest rates and that the mortgage rates may come down, or even the possibility that people could take out a mortgage today and then maybe refinance into the future, this idea becomes more prevalent within the market. And you start seeing that builders or people who may be supplying builders, these are like, the big guns, will then want to get ready for that possibility by buying into the futures market. And that's what I believe is taking place now. Now, it's not a lot of demand actually coming from the market itself as far as pulling of inventory, because right now I do not see a lot taking place. There's articles that I'll leave down in the description talking about Home Depot and Lowe's facing the same challenges. And as a lumber supplier, building material supplier, these are some of the things that I'm experiencing as well. Now, it's funny to watch how people react to the idea that builders could just simply build smaller homes. Now, this is one of the things that I have listened to so many times, right? And I just kind of wanted to address this because this is really where, I think a lot of people have this misunderstanding of what has taken place within the residential building industry, right? Residential homes. Is that when you take into account the permitting costs, land costs, taxes, all the stuff that goes into the labor costs, the subcontracts, material cost, by the time you have done this and you build a small home, you will not have the profit margin that you need in order to make that a business model. You have to really go for a much bigger home that carries a much better margin to it. And so what I mean by that is that by the time you have built the home, put all this cost into it, if you are selling the home and only profiting, a certain amount off of it, it doesn't make the home a reasonable model to go with. Now, some areas it is, like you can blast out tract homes or something like that and be able to make up in volume, which you're not making up in money. Right? What you're not making in money, you make it up in volume. So like, the more you do, the less of a margin you can take. But most individual builders, and this is where like a lot of homes come from, or most homes comes from small time builders who are building like say 3-4 homes a year. Those guys, they need to go for the best profit margin they can, because, just like any business, you're trying to make money at it. And so this is one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of small homes coming onto the market, but only big, expensive homes. And now, a lot of the builders that I talk to are working with homeowners, or like their customers who are looking to have these homes built, are not working with banks. They're doing it all out of cash, which is something, very interesting to think about. It was just like, these people are not participating in a market that has bank loans involved, right? And they're willing to build homes at this price with this material, right? There's few of them because, it's only those who are really doing this out of pocket. But you have to think about it. The homes that are coming onto the market are costing this much, these new homes. This is where the establishment of what is taking place, right? I mean, if there's fewer homes right now being built, and this is the cost of them from here on, as more homes begin to get built, it's probably going to end up costing at least this much, if not more. I mean, you think about it, lumber prices are down right now. Are lumber prices going to continue to go down from here? I mean, probably not. I believe that they have found their bottom. And when you think about some of the inventory, I would not say depletion, or how could I say, shortages, but maybe more like hiccups within the supply chain of lumber. Because like right now, when you go to look for in the Portland market, it's not like they're not available, but it's not like it's prevalent out there. A lot of times you have to wait a few days, where before it was just like, pretty much on demand, you can get whatever you wanted. Going into wides and longer lengths, right? So like 2x8, 2x10, 2x 12, and then say 14, 16, 18 footers, especially in the longer footers, 20 footers. These things are becoming less available. Now, I'm not saying that they're not there, like, because that's one thing, like, I don't want to put out like this fear tactic, like kind of video saying, oh my gosh, there's a lumber shortage happening. That's not the case at all. But there is like, say depletions within the supply chain that isn't necessarily like a steady fill. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm kind of clear on that that this is the situation that we're truly in. If it was a real shortage, like if I could not get it and the vendor was like telling me, I don't know when we're going to get it, then I would be saying that, but that's not the case at all, right? It's just, usually it's just, a day out, or not a day out, like a week out or a few days out or something like that in order to get this stuff. So I just wanted to make that clear. But really, when I think about like what's going to take place here going into the future when it comes to the building market, right? Because this is really where I think a lot of people are probably going to focus in, is like, where are lumber prices going to go? I believe we have reached the bottom. And if the perception continues that the Federal Reserve has peaked out on their interest rates and that they are going to be lowering them from here, or maybe even just not continuing to go up, right? As long as they have that perception going to the market, I believe that the building industry is going to start moving again, right? Because right now there is a dramatic slowdown taking place, especially when you consider all these commercial, real estate properties and, apartment complexes and stuff like that. Those things are coming onto the market in a wave of bankruptcies. We just recently done a video on that, and we've also recently done a video on how a lot of residential properties are going to be facing foreclosures, especially like in the VA loans and stuff like that. Not saying like these things aren't still going to be in the markets, but if there is a change in market perception, I think this is the bigger thing to look at, because right now market perception is believing that the interest rates are going to remain elevated, but there is this cluing in that there could possibly be a dropping of interest rates going into the future. And if that takes more common view amongst the market, then I could just imagine that would start bringing more home construction back into fruition, I guess, and then start bringing some more inventory to the market as well. Okay, I think I got it. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.